Okay, this painting is called American Gothic. This is the painting of the week, American Gothic here. It was painted by Grant Wood in 1930. It's one of the most famous American paintings of all time. Grant Wood had grown up in Iowa as a farmer, and he was an artist, and he traveled to Europe, and he was really impressed by the cathedrals with their Gothic windows. And there's a Gothic window right here. That's why it's called American Gothic. He also liked the Northern and Italian Renaissance styles of painting. The reason it's a little bit funny is the Gothic window symbolizes the verticality of the high ceilings of the Gothic cathedrals. However, this is just a one-story farmhouse. So after having traveled Europe, he thought it was funny to see a Gothic window on a one-story farmhouse. Now, in order to get people to pose for the painting, this was actually the artist's sister, and then this was the artist's dentist. He initially said that they were husband and wife, but she's actually a lot younger than him, of course, here. And so later on said, yeah, that's his daughter. There was a mixed reaction. The painting became an overnight sensation, was super famous and popular, but some people in Iowa didn't like it. They said it sort of stereotypes them as being tight-lipped, Bible-thumping Puritans, okay? Other people, like Grant Wood, the artist himself, said no, it celebrates the hardworking, steadfast, pioneer spirit of the Americans and the family farm. And okay, so this actually was developed a whole new painting style called regionalism. Regionalism, okay? There's a lot of like clever little things in here. If you look at the positioning, they're both positioned by the rule of thirds in the painting. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and that kind of gets your eye, your attention better. Other features here, the shape of the pitchfork is like an upside down echo of the Gothic window. The vertical prongs on it, they echo his shirt. There's like another pitchfork right here on his overalls, and the vertical struts on the roof of the attic there of the house. They all match each other. The pattern of her apron goes with the pattern of the shade within the Gothic window. So all these things kind of draw your attention in and get you to sort of look at it longer. And it's a beautiful painting. And also, I really admire this type of old-fashioned American family farm, self-sufficient spirit, and I think we would do well to go back to that. Because some of the things that I think are happening, for example, all this stuff about, Bud and Ford of, changing their advertising and then losing a lot of business. And the significance of that is I think that was intentional as a way to cause those companies to go broke and to cause those workers to be unemployed. And once those workers are unemployed, they're going to have a harder time paying their bills. And then you could see what's coming. You could see what's coming after the spill with regard to the river in Ohio, and with all the food processing plants that are out of commission. There's not going to be as much food around this winter, and a lot more people are going to wish they had the skills of these two farmers here, okay? And the other thing I can tell you, going back in time, there was some disagreement between myself and the wife on how to handle the lawn. I said, don't ever spray anything on the grass. I hate all those chemicals. I hate the smell of them. And I agreed to cut the grass with a push mower. And when I cut the grass with a push mower, that way there's no noise. In a suburb, it's always so noisy. Everybody's cutting their grass all the time. And then that stuff stinks. They spray that stuff on the grass. And everybody's just being conformist. Like, they say high school kids are more vulnerable to conformity. It continues on all the way entire life. Why does everybody have to have a green lawn? Okay, what's so big about that? I think it's stupid. Okay, if you have a house with good farmland soil, why waste it by spraying all this crap on there because of the dandelions? As a matter of fact, I wrote a letter, and I looked up all the references of the Association of Cancer with the herbicide sprayed on this grass, and I went and I put them around in all the neighbors' mailboxes, and not a single neighbor cared about my letter. My wife just said I made a jerk of myself. Our other neighbor mocked the fact that we had some dandelions in our lawn. I did the best I could. I got out of them, but I was mocked also like a Sisyphean, Sisyphus, the Greek myth of, pushing the rock up the hill and then it always falls down the next day. You can never get all the dandelions, but who cares? And of course, I was told by my wife, oh, you're lowering the property value. You're such a jerk. My kid said he was embarrassed to bring a friend over because our lawn had dandelions and the neighbors didn't. And so what I'm saying is, all these petty concerns, I would have just, I could have been happy to pave it over and just have a spot to exercise. But anyways, we ended up having to move. I mention all that because I think, now we're heading towards where people are going to really wish that they had these gardens. In World War I, World War II, people had what they call victory gardens during the rationing times, and they would grow food on their front lawns, okay? So, and their back lawns. And so nowadays, people have destroyed all their soil, and you really can't grow much there. So you can get indoor hydroponics things, perhaps. That's what some people could do. But, also kids, what do they learn in high school nowadays? A bunch of crap. They just take a Scantron test to memorize a bunch of words that are meaningless to them, forget it the next day. Rather than in the old days, kids, maybe they learn how to grow food. Maybe they'd be in the 4-H club. Maybe they learn automobile repair and maintenance, wood shop, some hands-on skills. So anyways, I do think it's a magnificent painting, American Gothic, and it's very iconic, and there's been lots of different parodies of it. So anyways, hope you enjoyed it.